You want someone? You want to feel understood. You want someone you can call at the end of a long day. Someone who chooses you without hesitation. But then someone actually gets close. And suddenly, you want space. Their messages start feeling annoying. Their attention feels overwhelming. You notice little things about them that suddenly seem unbearable. And you start thinking, maybe I just don't like them. So you pull away. They leave. And strangely, you miss them. That contradiction is where things get interesting. Because, what if you don't actually have a problem with love? What if you have a problem with what happens inside you when someone gets close enough to matter? Your mind has a remarkable ability to protect you from experiences it has learned to associate with pain. Think of it like a security system. If you've been rejected, betrayed, abandoned, or repeatedly disappointed, your mind doesn't simply remember those experiences. It updates its predictions. Closeness might lead to pain. And predictions change behavior. You may still consciously want intimacy, while unconsciously creating distance from it. At first, it can feel completely rational. You tell yourself they're too needy, too emotional, too complicated, not your type. You suddenly notice every flaw. But here's the uncomfortable possibility. Sometimes, when vulnerability increases, your mind begins devaluing the person who creates it. Not because they're necessarily wrong for you, but because finding reasons to leave makes leaving feel safer. And once you leave, the anxiety disappears. That relief is important, because in behavioral psychology, relief can reinforce avoidance. You feel vulnerable. You create distance. You feel better. Your mind learns. Distance works. So next time you do it faster, and eventually, solitude starts feeling incredibly peaceful. No explanations. No expectations. No emotional negotiations. No possibility of being rejected. But there's a catch. Your brain doesn't only learn behaviors. It can build an identity around them. You start saying, I'm just independent. I don't need anyone. Relationships aren't worth the trouble. And after repeating those beliefs enough times, they stop sounding like defenses. They start sounding like personality. This is where cognitive psychology becomes especially interesting. Your mind naturally looks for information that fits the story it already believes. If you've decided people are disappointing, you notice disappointment. If you've decided relationships are exhausting, every argument becomes its evidence. If you've decided you're better alone, peace becomes proof. And eventually, you may not even remember when the choice became automatic. But here's the distinction that matters. Some people genuinely love solitude. Personality plays a role. Being alone can be restorative. Independent people can have perfectly healthy relationships while still needing plenty of space. The question isn't whether you enjoy being alone. It's what happens when someone tries to get close. Healthy solitude says, I like being alone, but I can let you in. Protective isolation says, I like being alone because nobody can hurt me here. One is a choice. The other is a shield. And sometimes the shield becomes so comfortable, you forget you're wearing it. That's why you might say you want love, while repeatedly choosing situations where love can never become too real. You choose emotionally unavailable people. You lose interest when someone becomes available. You keep relationships at a safe distance. Then you look around and think, see, I meant to be alone. But maybe that's not the conclusion. Maybe that's the pattern. Because sometimes the person who says, I don't need anyone, isn't someone who doesn't want connection. They're someone who learned that needing another person gives that person the power to hurt them. So they chose the only solution that felt completely safe. Don't need anyone. And perhaps the most uncomfortable question isn't, why am I alone? It's this. What would happen if I stopped protecting myself from closeness? Because you may not actually be afraid of being alone. You may be afraid of letting someone matter and discovering that they can hurt you. And if that's true, then solitude was never the destination. It was the place you learned to hide.